Why do you think this truth hasn't propagated through the whole scientific community?
I know exactly why. Why?
I looked at this, and you're only using one person per generation. There's billions of people in a generation.
That makes it worse.
How does that make it work?
All right, John, we have a claim we'd like to make.
Yep.
And I'll run through it quickly here with you.
Yep.
And then after I make this claim, I'd like you to try to dispute my claim and win $1,000 if possible, okay? All right, here's our claim. First of all, we need to ask you something, John. Would you consider yourself a rational person?
Yep.
In a minute, I'm going to explain what evolution is. But for now, I want to know, would it matter to you if evolution turned out to be false? The kind of evolution where it creates an ape to a human or ape-like creature to a human, would that matter to you?
If you present evidence that goes against what I believe and what I stand for, and it makes sense to me, then I would be willing to change my opinion.
And John, one other thing. If you don't change your mind after you see the evidence and it makes perfect sense, what would that mean?
If I look at the evidence, I would probably have to do some more research, see what you guys are saying are credible and true, and then I have to do my own personal research and see what I actually believe in after that.
Okay, so we're saying it's absolutely impossible. We want you to leave telling us whether you think it could still be possible, or at least say technically it couldn't be possible, but still open-minded. Would you be accepting that?
I think I could accept that, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So when we talk about evolution, we're not talking about adaptation and natural selection.
Yeah, okay.
That happens and we see it. So
Yep.
don't try to defend that. If you defend that, that means we're talking across each other and it won't
Yep.
make any sense.
So what are you talking about?
We're talking about neo-Darwinism. When they discovered the DNA, they said evolution can only happen through mutation and natural selection. We're saying mutations don't happen sufficiently for an organism to become something other than what it is.
Okay.
If there are no mutations, then nothing changes and everything becomes according to their kind. A banana does not change to a human being, for example, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So how would you define a kind?
Well,
A kind approximately would be the family level. It's not exactly there, but the original animals capable of reproduction would be a kind. So we're not talking speciation, we're not talking variation or adaptation. All that happens, that's observable. What
Okay.
we've never observed is macroevolution. That's what's impossible, and that's what we want to run through the scientific evidence and show you that that's impossible.
Yeah, so going back onto that kind, what would be your formal definition of kind?
Original animals capable of reproduction.
Okay, and so when you think of like a dog, right? How would you define the dog kind?
Well, today we're using the classification system of Linnaeus, and so our minds are stuck in those classifications. So a dog, a wolf, a coyote, all the same kind of animal. Originally, they were able to reproduce together. Their ancestors were capable of reproduction. Now they varied. We have what we call different species, even though there's not a good definition of species.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I
before
agree
we
with
get
that.
into that, I want to cover what our actual argument is that we're arguing
Okay, yeah.
for
You guys can
$1,000.
do your argument, and then I'll see what I can do.
Awesome. All right, John, here's our argument. You can follow along on the paper if you'd like.
Yep.
Step number one is, according to the evolution worldview, human beings are about how similar to ape-like creatures. Because they say we evolved from ape-like creatures.
I think it depends on what ape-like creature you refer to, what DNA sample you took to compare, and whether the DNA sequencer you used was accurate and what mutations you picked.
So do you know what the scientific community, the consensus is out there?
It depends on what ape-like creature you want to pick.
Right. So do you know what the consensus is for us and an ape-like creature like a chimpanzee?
A chimpanzee, I believe it's like 3%, yeah.
Okay. It used to be 1%. Then it went to 4 to 5%. Today, as of 2024, it's at 15.86% difference.
I looked at that study. I don't believe in what they did. I could look at it again if you would like.
Yeah, we'd be happy to show it to you.
Yeah,
but
I don't
there's a
believe
study
in
out
that.
there.
Yeah.
But here, we're going to be really nice about it. We're not even going to go with your 3%. We're going to go with 1% different.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
so we're going to make it nice and easy.
Yep.
How many base pairs in the human genome are there? If we took the DNA out of your body,
Yep.
it would stretch, John, from here to the moon and back 552,000 times.
All the DNA would be
DNA.
very thin. That's just
If you
volume,
took
yeah.
the rungs of the ladder, how many base pairs are there in the DNA?
There's billions.
How many?
There's billions.
Billions, yeah. We're going to go with 3 billion, even though there's actually more than that. We're going to go down to 3 billion and say just 3 billion base pairs.
Okay.
So now, if we're 1% different from an ape-like creature,
Yep.
like a chimp, or our common ancestor, how many base pair differences are there between an ape-like creature and a human being if it's 1% different and there's 3 billion base pairs?
Couple million?
Yeah, I've actually got it in step number 3 there. It's 30 million differences. There's 30 million base pair differences. That's 1%. of 3 billion.
Yep.
Now the question asked, and this was actually developed by an evolutionary geneticist, an Einstein of his day. He was called the smartest guy people knew in the science community.
Yep.
He said, how long would it take to get those changes? And now he started to look. Well, how long does it take to get just one beneficial mutation?
What is your definition of beneficial mutation?
In this situation, any mutation that went from an ape-like creature to a human being is beneficial, because we're looking hindsight.
Any mutation at all.
That went from ape-like to human. So anything that helped us along that line is beneficial.
Yep.
And we're not even going to count all the bad ones. We're going to make it so easy.
I think the bad ones would actually,
Okay.
Sure.
They would
We'll go with the
actually
argument.
many times nullify or cancel out any good ones. So they say, based on the population size, what was the population size they did? 10,000.
There were 10,000 at the time.
Based on a population of 10,000, they said it would take 300 generations for one beneficial mutation to take over the population. And John, let me explain that. If you had a beneficial mutation that all of the world could use and we would all be better human beings, what would it take for your beneficial mutation to take over the population?
it would take quite a while, yeah.
And you'd have to have a lot of kids, and all of
But
us
we
and
don't
our
all have
ancestors.
the same mutations.
Either duplicate mutation, which we got to be honest would be kind of difficult, especially when we're talking beneficial.
Yeah.
And those beneficials would have to find each other. You'd have to find the right mate. There'd be a whole lot of problems there. But we're going to ignore all those problems. They say about 300 generations to go from ape-like creature to human being. We're not going to say 300. We're going to make it really easy, John.
Yeah.
We're going to say you get a beneficial mutation every single generation. Every generation, a beneficial mutation helps the entire population. Every single generation. Now, how long is a generation? How long till you have kids?
Well, a mutation isn't just one base pair change.
Agreed. Sometimes it's not. But
thousands.
usually it's harmful. And like I said, we're ignoring all the harmful ones. We're ignoring the neutral or the harmful
Yep.
mutations.
Okay.
We're talking something that's beneficial, taking us from ape-like creature to human.
Yep.
Giving one beneficial base pair change per generation is actually pretty generous.
Yeah, but I looked at this, and you're only using one person per generation. There's billions of people in a generation.
That makes it worse.
How does that make it worse?
John?
Okay.
Recombination.
All right. Okay. First of all, we have the issue of recombination, which is how you get parallel process put together.
I understand recombination.
Yes. But you said we can have multiple mutations at the same time. On the screen, can you see this? We have different types of mutations. Is that visible for people?
Yep.
Okay, we have different types of
Substitution.
mutations. We got substitution, insertion, deletion, duplication, inversion, and translocations.
Yep.
These are all known to John Haldane, who originally made the calculation.
Okay.
So when you're raising those questions, please bear in mind the cleverest person in biology genetics is the guy who worked it all out. And he took everything into account. And please bear in mind the kind of thing you're not fighting for, but claiming or saying is less than 1% of all the mutations. And usually they're harmful and they destroy or produce bad results as far as mutations are concerned. So we can't use those, but the facts are right in front of you. And basically we are talking about a geneticist who already took it into account. And just so that you know that he did, these are the dates when they found them. So clearly within the date of John Haldane, he did it in 1957, and as you can know, early 1900s, most of those things have been, in fact, all of them have been known.
Yep. I
So-
would have to look at those and see if after 80 years they would still hold up the percentages. you
Yeah, absolutely. Well, basically, it doesn't matter. These are the figures we've got, and these are the figures we work with today. We're using the consensus of the scientific community. We're not making anything up.
Okay.
It's very important that you know that while you're asking those questions, you're technically not asking us these questions. You're asking the scientific community these questions, and we're responding on their behalf.
So assuming one beneficial mutation every generation, which we think is very
I
kind.
disagree.
Okay. You're disagreeing with the scientific community.
I
then.
disagree that over 7 billion people all reproducing, you wouldn't only get one beneficial mutation in 7 billion people reproducing.
No.
But again, we're talking fixed. We're talking a beneficial mutation fixed in the entire population, not
That's
a beneficial
how
mutation.
Evolution works.
Yes, you have to have it fixed in the population.
Why would you have to have it fixed?
Otherwise,
in the population?
how does it take over? How did all of us become humans?
We're all different.
Maybe you
But
can
not
define
that
fixed.
different.
Maybe you can
Okay,
define
all
define
are
fixed. What does fixed mean?
Fixed would probably mean the whole population has it, right?
Correct.
That's what you're
We're
understanding.
giving you one beneficial mutation fixed in the population
Yep.
every single generation. That's incredibly generous.
And if you're not believing this, just go into AI. Nowadays, everybody can go and ask this question, ChatGPT, and you can find out, and you can ask the question, how many beneficial mutations have we had in the last 10 years, decade, or 50 years that actually became fixed in the population? Let me tell you right now, you'll find none. So when you're making a case, look at all the millions of years, you have to base them on facts. You can't go ahead and just make theoretical expectations of what could happen. It's not what could happen, it's what is happening. And the reason why it doesn't happen, and I can show you this if you want, is because we have repair systems, mechanical systems in our DNA that actually correct those errors. That's why it's not happening. Well, it does happen, but it doesn't get fixed. But if it were to get fixed, then we'll get into something called error catastrophe. That means not only the beneficial ones get fixed, so will the harmful ones. And that's what we're trying not to have. Does that make sense? Okay.
All right, so one beneficial mutation per generation. How long until you have kids? How long is every generation?
600 million years?
No. I'm on number 5. How long does it take for you to have kids?
20 years.
Okay, that's the low number. They say 20, 25, or 30. We're going to go with 20 to make it happen faster. So if you get one beneficial mutation fixed in the population every generation, and you need 30 million beneficial mutations, how long would it take to go from an ape-like creature to a human being?
600 million years?
600 million years. That is the argument based on an evolutionary geneticist. You would need 600 million years to go from an ape-like creature to a human being. That's with only 1% different. You said there was 3%, which means it's 3 times more than that. More difficult. So our argument is, according to the current evolution model, we evolved from an ape-like ancestor like Lucy, one of our earliest ancestors. That was 3.2 million years ago. An evolutionary geneticist named Haldane said, we need way more time. It's impossible for it to happen that fast. We'd like you to disprove that and win $1,000, John. Go.
So I think...
Can we just say one more thing, just to be clear? Okay, so this happened in 1957. And ever since then, not by John Haldane, but by other people who actually examined the evidence. It went into peer review, and we got many scientists afterwards who came along, and I can show you who the scientists are and the paperwork that they produced. No one refuted it ever since. So honestly, if you're going to refute this right here and now, you are better than all these scientists put together, which will be amazing, and you should go and become famous.
You deserve the $1,000.
You deserve more. You should get the Nobel Prize.
I'm not sure if your premise was 100% correct, but I'll agree with it for my argument.
Thank you.
Okay.
So how many mutations are there per generation? Just not fixed, just generations. Do you know?
About 150 to 300.
150 to 300, okay.
Most of them, they call them deleterious. In other words, they're damaging. They're not helpful. Our human genome is not getting better. It's getting worse, which is a problem for the evolution worldview.
And getting worse in what aspect?
More genetic load, more deformed chromosomes, more disease, more problems.
And why do you think that is? I think that's because of the lack of natural selection in the human population.
So if we allowed people to kill the unfit and not let them reproduce, and kill the mentally retarded and not let them reproduce, and kill the people that aren't fit to survive, therefore we would have the genetics going upward and we'd be doing better.
I don't think that's how you would look at it. All I'm saying is that unfavorable mutations are not bred out of the population because there's a lack of natural selection.
Right, and that's
all I'm saying.
Okay, and now let me tell you the conclusion you're coming to.
I understand what you're saying. I don't believe in that at all.
No,
that's all I'm saying.
But I'm just telling you that exact logic was the exact logic that who used. Do you know who I'm going for?
Yeah, I know.
Who? What's his name?
Hitler.
Hitler used to exterminate the Jews. He was trying to breed a greater population with pure genetics, and he thought the Aryan race had the purest genetics and was trying to weed the world of the ones that did not have pure genetics. So that logic leads to eugenics. I just want you to know.
All I'm saying is that if your argument was the human genome is getting worse because there's more bad mutations, I would have to say that is because there is a lack of natural selection in the
So we're too nice to people. Okay.
Let me just
that's
point
not
out
what I'm
something.
saying. I'm not saying you should go around and kill everyone. That's all I'm saying is that explains the increase in harmful mutations.
Just so that we make it very clear, John Haldane did not care about that argument. He actually assumed, and he had several explanations as to what could cause a mutation to occur and not occur, and he took everything into account, including the thing that you spoke about. Basically, he said if we take into account the rate of reproduction, the rate of people dying at certain age, the rate of people being sick, the rate of disasters taking place, wars, famine, that sort of thing. He took everything into account, assuming that natural selection would work. He was working with natural selection. And the figures he come up with is exactly that, the figures that we're giving you. So what you're saying now is not something that Haldane didn't know about, but he applied.
This isn't my argument at all.
It's not your argument, I understand. But
do you have an argument against what we've
Yes,
presented?
yes, I was getting there.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do it.
There's about 300 mutations per generation, just from me to my offspring, about 300.
No, wait, you misrepresented something.
Up to 300 genetic mutations that you're passing on, yes.
Yeah, just on the, no recombination, just the insertion, deletion, and the inversion and the translocation.
You worded it in a way that we would not agree with.
Okay.
It's one mutation per 300 generations.
Well, I'm not talking about fixed. I'm not talking about fixed. Just the mutations.
Just any random
mutation,
harmful, neutral,
yeah, it doesn't matter. How many would there be?
Well, we just said it's
300.
Actually, the consensus is up to 200. It's between 1 and 2.
Right.
Okay, 200.
But very few of them are beneficial. Yeah, we don't actually see any beneficial mutations today, right? But we're assuming you have them because that's what Haldane assumed.
Yep,
Haldane assumed that.
That's not what my argument's about. From me to my offspring is about 150 mutations, right? And so, how many offsprings on average does a human male have? Back when we were evolving.
Well, I mean, I can't remember exactly what Haldane came with. I don't want to give you my opinion. My opinion doesn't matter.
2, 3?
Well, maybe more.
Okay.
Sure.
Can you stand in front of the mic too? So
Yep. And so then what would be, what was the population they think of the human race?
Well, any geneticist, when they're doing a population genetics like this, they assume around about 10,000 up to 100,000.
100,000, right? So you have 200 mutations times 100,000 every 20 years. For just randomness in the genome.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you're using the fixed mutations of humans at the population of 7 billion. You're not using the fixed numbers when the population was only 10,000.
that's what Haldane was doing.
Yes.
He was doing that only
That-
10,000?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He worked from millions of years up to the current date. So he's taking everything into account. And if you wish, I'll show you the formula and you'll be surprised how complicated it was.
And then another thing I would have to say is like bottlenecking effects. Did he have any variance in like bottlenecking? Would super compact the amount of mutations per generation?
Bottlenecking actually hurts because you're taking all the variety down to a
And
bottleneck.
compressing it, so all of those mutations that were different, 200, right, would be changed per generation to all be fixed.
Yeah, but that will be our catastrophe. You don't want to fix that. That's why we have corrections.
Because you're fixing bad. Fixing bad mutations.
Let me show you.
Yeah, but this formula uses bad mutations as well.
No, that is only good mutations. That's
What did he
only the
classify as
beneficial.
good?
Beneficial. Whatever
What did-
led from an ape-like creature to
What
a
did he
human being.
classify as good?
Anything that led from an ape-like creature to a human being is a good mutation.
But those would also be bad mutations, no?
No.
No?
We're ignoring all the bad ones.
You're ignoring. I think that's the problem of the argument. Is you're ignoring all the bad ones.
Well, then you'd have to argue with Haldane on that.
Why do you want
dead,
to,
so
why
I
do you
can't
want to
argue with him.
destroy humanity? Of course we're ignoring the bad ones. You die.
No, you don't.
This guy was
it
removing.
leads to worse.
This guy was removing the bad
I
ones so
think-
he can
I think
survive.
There's evolution doesn't have good and bad. It's just natural selection, right?
Natural selection removes the bad ones, doesn't care about the neutral ones, and keeps the beneficial ones.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your name, John? John.
Yeah.
John Haldane. I don't know what you're saying. I'll be honest with you. I'm confused. John Haldane is trying to make sure that the population arrives to where we are today.
Yeah.
If he sits down and takes into account harmful mutations, then you basically are destroying humanity. There is nothing to say. I don't know how to respond to that. Nobody sits here and says, you know how we got bigger and better is by getting worse and more harmful. Nobody does that.
Okay. But what I'm trying to argue is that your idea of a bad mutation, I don't think fits.
It's not,
What Haldane is saying, I believe what you're trying to convey, is that any mutation from ape to humans was better.
no. We're saying whatever it requires for an ape-like creature to become a human requires the kind of mutation that moves it from ape-like creature to human, and he said these are beneficial mutations. You know who Richard Dawkins is, yeah?
Yeah.
He tells you how the eye has evolved. He said with good mutations, beneficial mutations,
Yep.
and natural selection, not harmful mutations and natural selection. The best person who tried to help John Haldane is Motoo Kimura, who said neutral mutations would actually help. That's what he came up with. But I have never met anybody or a scientist or a document or an article that says harmful mutation gets us where we need to go.
That's not what I'm trying to say. Harmful to the organism's chance to reproduce, I agree with. But I'm trying to just distinct whether you're saying harmful means towards humans and
We're talking
harmful
about
Towards
humans.
survival.
Yeah.
towards survival, right? So there, just by random chance, there are going to be harmful mutations made in every organism.
I agree. We all
Correct.
agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, by process, there will be some bad mutations from chimpanzee to human.
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, lots and lots of them.
Yeah, so the differences in a lot of the differences in the human genome versus ape are repeating. Some are beneficial. You have to consider all the epigenetics. So I don't agree with the one beneficial mutation per generation. I think there's billions of mutations that are beneficial towards someone's survival.
Okay, in that case, we've
In the
made
generation.
ourselves clear. I'm not agreeing that we have multiple beneficial mutations. I'm giving you the benefit of doubt. But what we are talking about is the kind of beneficial mutation that gets fixed in the population, not the kind of mutation that you're referring to randomly across everybody. Haldane knew that you get many beneficial mutations across the population.
Yep.
He's saying, what would it take to get those beneficial mutations to actually get fixed in the population? Let me show you the quote. For 1,000 loci, which is a single base pair, it takes 300,000 generations. That's what he said. For 1,000 beneficial mutations to actually get fixed in the population is 300,000 generations.
I would have to do my research. I don't agree with that. So I would have to look at what he says. We can't really have an argument if we both disagree with the premise of your argument. Can
we encourage you to check it out? There is a reason why we're doing this. Is because we care. We think students deserve the truth.
And why do you think this truth hasn't propagated out?
Why? Say it again.
Why do you think this truth hasn't propagated through the whole scientific community?
I know exactly
It has
why.
gone out.
Why? There's a lot, and it's never been solved. It's been ignored. Matter of fact, the argument right here, Haldane's Dilemma Unsolved, talks about the fact that, and goes through the papers showing they have ignored the argument instead of addressing the argument. It's a dilemma. It's a problem. They know it's a problem. They're ignoring it because it makes evolution impossible. That's why it's ignored. And they don't want to give up evolution.
And you know what? You know it's been ignored because Motoo Kimura came along and changed natural selection to become a neutralist. Right now, today, they should be teaching you in schools that Motoo Kimura solved the problem of natural selection by coming up with neutral theory of evolution. So the fact that you're not recognizing that you're being taught bad science when they're talking
I don't think I'm being taught bad science. I just don't understand. I would have to look at what you're saying. I would have to look at these sources and come to my own conclusions.
Can we leave you with one last thought?
Yeah.
I want you to be honest with me.
Yeah.
I want you to look at this quote, right? This quote says this. Can you read it?
Yeah.
It says, "It is said that an argument is what convinces reasonable men, and a proof is what takes to convince even an unreasonable man."
Yeah, I just don't agree with what was some of the values in the formula. That's all I'm saying.
But if those values are true,
I agree, yeah. If they were true, this would make sense, but I don't agree with it.
if you
So say that again, but say it more clearly. If they were true, evolution would be, let me hear you say all that.
I think if these values were true and you didn't consider the branching web or bottleneck effects of evolution, this could make sense. That's all I'm going to say.
Evolution could be impossible, correct?
No, I don't think so.
No, wait.
You already agree
If
with...
those numbers are true,
Okay.
evolution would be impossible.
Okay. How old do you think the Earth is? I guess we could start
That's
there.
irrelevant
we don't
to our
care.
argument.
Okay, well, it doesn't
we don't
matter.
care. No, wait.
Okay,
We
never
don't
mind.
care. How old do you like it to be?
4.6 billion years.
There you go.
Let me show you something.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that.
Pretend the Earth is 4.6 billion years old.
Yeah, and
How long would it take, according to this?
I don't agree with that, but yeah, we can
I
use
know.
it.
If these numbers are accurate, and you can look them up, they are.
They're not. Okay.
Okay.
But we'll go with them.
no,
It's
listen.
interesting to hear you just say, they're not. And
Well,
you're
I just don't know. I just don't know.
Okay, so that's different.
better.
Yeah.
That's very different. Would you agree that you're basically making a claim out of ignorance? You're
Yeah,
not making
I
a claim
agree.
out of
I
knowledge.
think I don't know if they're true. I'm highly skeptical.
Okay.
Based on ignorance.
Based on
The fact that
the
this
good
would
faith
disprove
of
evolution.
thousands of evolutionary scientists.
Based on what?
Based on, say that again.
Based on the good faith of thousands of people. that would
the
probably...
good faith of thousands of scientists.
So you're putting your faith in scientists who are biased rather
No.
than put your
I'm
faith
putting
in
my
science
faith
that's fact.
in that there's probably someone that has debunked this.
No, there's probably what?
I'm assuming there's someone that has written something to disprove this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of work that's
No.
done to disprove this.
No.
There's not been one.
No, one guy tried to resolve it in 1968, wrote a book about it in 1983, completely destroyed the actual argument without knowing what it was. And then in 1993, another scientist came along and fixed the misunderstanding. And here we are again, same problem.
Yeah, I think...
Why do you think they don't
30
tell?
more seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you think they don't tell anybody? Why?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
It's because it would make evolution impossible.
And what would the reasoning to...
Evolution is a very tightly held religious worldview. Macro, not micro.
Yeah,
The
so
idea that we evolved from animals is a very passionately held religious worldview.
Yeah.
And I think you're demonstrating that right now. You're saying, I don't know, I'm ignorant on it, I haven't researched it, but that's impossible. And these are from the scientists that believe in the evolutionary worldview.
Tell me, what would a reasonable person say before they go right now, having looked at numbers that don't lie?
I would have to do my own research.
But what would if it's true, what would a reasonable person say?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say because a reasonable person would have to doubt the numbers and have to do their own reseach.
Okay.
You sound just like the majority of evolutionary scientists today that are ignoring this problem
I'll look into it.
rather than actually dealing with it.
If I talk to people that are evolutionary scientists and I talk to them about this and they can't provide me with answers, whether the premise is false, the values are false, whether his work was false, he didn't have enough data 80 years ago, I think then, yes, I would agree with this. But there's so many ifs that I don't think I could accept the numbers right now.
These ifs, John, are only in your mind. They don't exist out there. There are no ifs when people are looking at this because numbers are very straightforward to find out, right?
And based on your logic, you should be questioning Darwinian evolution, which was developed in 1859, and saying they didn't have enough science. The truth is, the science that we see today in every branch, geology, biology, every branch is showing evolution cannot happen. We're giving you one example and offering $1,000 to anybody who can to change or prove us wrong on this. John, I'm gonna have to let you go
Before
right
he
now.
goes,
Thank you so
can
much.
you tell everybody why we're doing this?
Hey guys, we're offering $1,000 to anybody who can disprove evolution. Hey, sorry we don't have sound amplification yet, but if I can get y'all's attention real quick. We're offering $1,000 to anybody who can disprove macroevolution, and here's why. Macroevolution is a worldview that teaches we evolved from an animal, and it's a lie. It's not true, and it can be disproven. If macroevolution is not true, somebody tell me, what's the only other game in town? What's the only other alternative there is? Somebody tell me. Create. You're exactly right. If evolution isn't true, then you are created. Guess what that does? That makes you and I accountable to our Creator. That makes us responsible to Him. If He made the world, He can make the rules, and He can tell us what to do and what not to do. And the reality is you and I have broken the Creator's laws. Raise your hand. How many of you have ever told a lie? Put your hand up if you've ever told a lie. Okay, some people are not participating. You're either lying to me right now or you don't like raising your hand in public. I understand. Okay. What do you call somebody who tells a lie? A liar. That's exactly right. How many of you have ever taken something that doesn't belong to you? Anybody done that? Downloaded music illegally? Taken something as a kid? We got some liars in the audience. They're not raising their hand, okay? Yes, we've done that. What does that make us if we take something that doesn't belong to us? A thief. That's exactly right. John, have you ever lied?
Yeah.
Have you ever taken something that doesn't belong to you?
Probably.
Okay. Have you ever taken the name of the God that gave you life and used it to curse or to swear? Anybody ever use God's name in vain?
Right.
You have, yeah. That's called blasphemy. It's very serious. We wouldn't use our own mother's name as a curse word, yet we've taken the name of the God that gave us our mother and used it to curse and swear. Now, I'm not judging you. You guys judge yourself. Most of you admit it. And even if you didn't, it's probably true. You said, I'm a liar, I'm a thief, I'm a blasphemer. How is God going to judge that when He judges you by His standard of perfection? Man's standard isn't perfection. God's is. How is He going to judge you? You stand before God, John. Are you going to be innocent or guilty of breaking God's rules?
I don't believe in God.
If you stand before God, though, would you be innocent or guilty?
I don't believe in God. So
If you stood before God, though, would you be innocent or guilty?
I don't believe in the Christian
I
God.
understand that.
Okay.
If you stood before
Probably,
the Christian
but I don't believe in it, so why does it matter?
Why is that so hard to say hypothetically? I don't understand that.
Sure, I guess I would be, under the Christian God, I would be guilty of all the things you mentioned.
We
yeah.
just we
Yeah.
just decided that if evolution is false, then God does exist. You believing in him or not makes no difference.
Yeah, but your disproof of evolution doesn't prove the Christian God exists.
It opens up a vacuum. It opens up a void that says there's a creator. Now we're not
Yeah.
here today to go through which creator is it, but it's easy to do that.
So you can't just put in the Christian God there yet.
Okay,
That's what
but
I'm
you
saying.
got to put in a deity. You got to put in a God.
You don't. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, well, regardless,
Okay.
you do.
No, you
Logically
don't.
speaking, you do. There's no other game in town.
Well, we don't
Come
know.
up with the next one then, and you tell me about it after
You
this,
could have
okay?
an-
Because there's no other option.
You don't. You can't. You could have an infinite. You could have a creation of the universe based on some higher dimension that we don't know. That's what I'm
Which
saying.
would be God.
Why would that be God?
Well, okay, let's argue that another time.
Okay.
We'll come to that in a minute.
Here's the reality. You and I are going to stand before God. We're guilty of breaking his rules. And if we're guilty, do we deserve a reward or a punishment? What do we deserve? Exactly. We deserve a punishment. Yeah. So that's what God has done. The Bible describes God as both loving and just. A judge that sits behind the bench who is loving and just doesn't let criminals go. You think, well, it's just a lie. Here's the reality. Let me explain this to you. If I lie to my son, he's 17 years old. If I lie to my son Jordan, how much trouble am I in? None. If I lie to my wife, how much trouble am I in? More. Some of you will find out one day, okay? If I lie to a police officer, how much trouble am I in? More trouble. If I lie to a judge on the bench while I'm under oath, how much trouble am I in? Even more. It's the same crime. The difference is who I've lied to. Our sins are not just against other people. They are against an infinite being, God. Therefore, they deserve an infinite punishment. That's why this is so important. That's why we're putting $1,000 on the line, because I want this disproven. I want you to prove me wrong, because if evolution is impossible, the only other game in town is creation, and that comes with serious implications. And John, to answer your real question, why isn't this more well known? Because of the implications of what this means. That's the real reason.
Yeah.
Hey, give John a hand. We
What about
appreciate
the
your time.
answer?
I'll
What
do
did God
my
do
own.
for us?
I'll look at this, and then if I agree with it, I might be back. If I disagree with it, I'll probably come back and support some more.
That
things
sounds
about it.
great.
Okay, cool.
Hey, let me tell you real quick let John tell you real quick what God did because of our situation.
Okay, so this is the thing. If God is just, then he will have to make sure everybody's punished. But if he's merciful, he has to find a way to give us forgiveness. So how does God reconcile his goodness and his justice at the same time? Well, God found a way. He entered into his own creation to represent humanity and willingly died on the cross. You know his name. Somebody shout his name. That's exactly right. He entered into his own creation, died a horrible death, rose again on the third day to pay for the crime on our behalf. And by doing so, God has performed both justice and mercy. So when we appear before him on Judgment Day, he can let us go because our crimes, the fine against God, has been paid for in full by somebody else. And the only thing you need to do to receive forgiveness, to receive this eternal life, is for you to repent. That means you acknowledge that you're sinful, turn away from those things, but it's not enough. Because it'll be like a criminal appearing before a judge and the judge saying, you just say sorry and you're off the hook. No. He has to repent because he's commanded to repent. But what rescues him is putting his trust in the work that Jesus did on the cross 100%. If you do that today, you'll go from death to life, from darkness to light. Do it today. Nothing is more important than your life. Repent and put your trust in Jesus today. Thanks, guys.